Garvin, you know, the government has been very quick to react to the floods, but many of the people who've suffered have chosen to build in flood-prone areas, built houses that sit flat on the ground, rather than the traditional houses on the stilts that we see around Trinidad. They have chosen to be more vulnerable. How much responsibility should the government have towards them?
Well, certainly if you build a home in the path of a river, then you're at fault. But there are many people who have not done that. There are many people who have built houses in what are traditionally residential areas or places earmarked for residential use. Now, as quite rightly pointed out, we have drainage structures that are 50 years old, drainage systems that are 50 years old. We have developed significantly as a nation over the last 50 years, and it simply cannot be right that we are still depending on 50-year-old systems. Trinidad and Tobago has developed by leaps and bounds, literally, over the last 50 years. You have places like Diego Martin and Chaguanas that have grown up. If you look at photographs of these areas 50 years ago, you would not see anything close to what it is today. So it is obvious that what needs to be done is that we need to bring our drainage systems to 2010 and beyond. We certainly can't bring it to 2010. We have to, if we are planning today, we have to plan for the next 50 years because you anticipate development. And that is what this government is all about. We have stated quite clearly that there are a number of things that need to be done infrastructure-wise. And when we are planning, we will be planning not for today, but for the next 50 years. The ministries of local government, ministries of works, they are actively looking at solutions for drainage. And I say over and over, we look at today's problem and you see that a number of the systems, even that we have that are incapable of the runoff, have not been properly maintained. So that we need to maintain and we need to grow and develop.
So can we see after this disaster has been managed, a long-term plan or medium-term plan coming out of the Prime Minister's office?
Absolutely. In fact, you would see it coming, I am sure, from Ministry of Works. The Minister has already signaled to the population that he intends to bring in consultants to look at this whole drainage system. And I am certain, based on the track record of the Minister of Works, that we will see something coming out that makes sense. We also hear the Minister of Local Government speaking about his own role in drainage development. Just yesterday in Cabinet, we approved equipment for the maintenance of the watercourses and the drains that will go a long way towards the improvement of the drainage system. And we even recognize very early in our administration that there are problems with the cleanup exercise, and that's why we introduced the Clean and Beautify Trinidad and Tobago exercise. I shudder to think what would have happened to Trinidad and Tobago had we not embarked on that exercise and cleaned some of the watercourses.
Okay, well, we have to take a short break. This is CNC3. Once again, we remind you, send in your suggestions and photographs to cleaningupthemess@guardian.co.tt. We'll be right back with more on the flooding disaster in Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome back. This is CNC3. We're talking about the flooding disaster in this country. My guests are the Conservative Forest Anthony Ramnarayan, Director of Drainage Shamshad Mohammed, and the Prime Minister's Press Secretary Garvin Nicholas. Anthony, we've been talking about deforestation so far and the problems we've had with legislation and so on. With that needs to be dealt with. But what about reforestation? What has your department actually been doing to reforest our land?
Okay, one of the major focus of the Forestry Division has been watershed management, especially in the upper regions of the watershed. And the Forestry Division, together with the National Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program, have been conducting active annual programs of reforestation, where we do about 1,500 hectares per year. Now, there are incentives for members of the private sector to also conduct reforestation activities, where they would receive a financial rebate for such work being done. And Of late, the Green Fund has been reactivated, and members of the public, through communities, are now being invited to apply to the Green Fund for financial support for reforestation activities as well. So that altogether, we hope that these efforts will reverse some of the negative trends and will be able to help to protect our landscapes and to prevent flooding.